Today we're going to be covering Viktor at 3 ranks as per usual. We're going to be kicking it off with a low silver, high bronze Viktor main. Now this guy doesn't have a ton of games. It does definitely seem that Viktor is his best champion. He was kind of sitting in bronze recently, just actually got to silver 4. And something that you typically see with a lot of lower tier Viktor players is that they have matchups that they understand and matchups that they don't. So here you've kind of got, the Viktor versus Aurora matchup. It seems like they popped off. And then in another game where they're versing a Yasuo where they absolutely got annihilated. And so what I noticed is that there are these giant gaps in matchup understanding. So this first little VOD here we're going to be taking a look at from this guy when he was actually sitting in bronze 1 is a Viktor vs Zed. Now, a matchup that I think a lot of Viktor players have mental blocks into. We'll get into maybe why when we get into the details. Now, I'm intrigued to see the quality of play from like a low silver, high bronze Viktor. What I'm anticipating to see, as per usual with a lot of the bronze VODs in this content series so far, is questionable early lane fundamentals, specifically wave management and resets are the two that really jump out to me. Typically, there is a very low level of matchup understanding and understanding how the kits interact. And then the mid game is usually a shit show, not syncing up with teams, not playing in accordance to neutral objectives, and very kind of unintentional TP usage. So let's talk about this matchup for a second before we get into it. So Zed as a matchup at a high level, we really want to try and bully levels 1 to 5 because at 6, especially with this sort of Electro and Ignite setup, it does get a little bit sketchy. There is a decent amount of threat onto us. The key is really trying to, play around that WEQ combo. Zed's W has a very long cooldown. We have a little bit of a range advantage with our E. And so in this game, we are versing also a relatively high threat jungler though, which means that, our warding and leaning needs to be really on point. So I typically would want to see some sort of slow build, harass, really make this Zed sweat farm in the early stages here because Zed level 1, 2 is quite weak. Looks like we've also opted in for bone plating, which will make our life a little bit easier here. Already we're seeing quite defensive posturing. I would really like to see us already get up in this guy's face. Now we have a bit of a TP advantage, which is great. I love the slow build already. I love how we're getting control of the wave level 1. Be interesting to see if this person goes for a early ward window here. Now, the thing with this account, and just speaking transparently, it was actually very difficult to find a hardcore Viktor, bronze/low silver player. A lot of people didn't find this champion. I mean, there's not many people that actually main this champion, unfortunately, which is a bit sad to see. I love Viktor. I think it teaches a lot of beautiful fundamentals. I think it rises in popularity around kind of Platinum and Emerald when people start to realize how good the champion is, but in the lower tiers, not so much. So we've missed our ward window. We don't know where Xin Zhao is. We don't know what path he's done. There's no warding and leaning going on, which is definitely not ideal. I also don't like that past E. You don't want to use too many level 1 E's. Now that we have the 2 points in the E, we can start to posture up a little bit more aggressively and get things done. I do like what they're doing with the waves, though. They're constantly slow building here. I really like how they're the one kind of making Zed react to waves. Very good to see. E accuracy so far, not too bad. I can see the intention. Quite honestly, this doesn't look to me like bronze level laning. But again, those fundamentals are missing. Xin Zhao comes through and we do get chunked out a little bit. And I'll be honest, the movement's looking quite good from this Viktor. This Viktor's got some pretty spicy movement. Jarilla Gones, 3-2-1. So yeah, very, very lucky with avoiding that early gank. We're starting to burn through quite a bit of mana here. I would like to tone down some of that mana. We kind of know what path Xin Zhao has done based off that gank. If we do have that sophisticated jungle tracking or not, hard to tell. Bit of a sloppy E there. Running very, very So it wouldn't surprise me if I see us go for an early base here, whether it's like a Dark Seal refill or even just like a Sapphire Crystal Tier 1 boots and refill, something like that. Bot lane off to a relatively good start here, which is great to see. Missing a few E's here. There's 2 or 3 E's in a row that we've actually missed, and I think we're definitely overusing our E here. And we got to remember this guy has D shield, so we don't want to get too carried away onto the trades. We do want to make sure that we are nailing our farm. And from a farm department, not too bad. So far, so good. We're doing an okay job. Okay, so we should know theoretically that Xin Zhao was on that top side. Rengar's now on the bot side, so we've got a bit of a potentially a split map scenario. We're sitting on 840 gold. If we can ration our mana, we may be able to last all the way out to a lost chapter here. We'll see how it goes. quite honestly, this guy is actually showing some good poise. I mean, he's not getting up in this. I mean, he's playing around cooldowns quite well. He's not over forcing when he's on cooldown. I mean, obviously, there's room for improvement with the quality of his warding and leaning and aggressive posturing. And I think he is maybe missing a little bit too many E's. But for the most part, what I like about this guy is he is nailing his farm. His farm's not too bad. He's not overcomplicating this early lane. So it's a bit of a shame we don't stay for an extra 100 gold here to get the Lost Chapter. Looks like he's just committing on that base and going straight Sorks. Holy moly. Very aggressive purchase. I mean, you can do this. The benefit of this kind of build path is that you have high damage, high burst. You also have that movement speed to kind of get in range, land those skill shots. Bit of some sloppy CSing here under tower. But the downside is that you don't really have much mana and resources to work with. And you obviously lose a lot of your wave control, right? Because Pen doesn't do anything for getting last hits. So it'll be interesting to see how we can leverage this. It's usually not what you see from a lot of lower tier Viktor players. It's that I would say that's more of a high skill cap kind of first item choice here. Because in order to utilize it, you've got to be very, bang on, accurate with your ability usage, and your mana rationing needs to be very, spot on as well. And we're already seeing some missed cues. We do get our bone plating procced. I would have loved to see a ward window. We're still sitting on 2 trinkets here. We have no idea, where the Xin Zhao is. We can't definitively lean to one side here. So warding is definitely an element of his gameplay that needs to be tightened up here. Farming okay. Farming not bad though. 51 CS by 6 minutes. Quite impressive. I have no idea where the Xin Zhao is. We don't even know where the Vel'Koz is. Vel'Koz could also be on a bit of a roam window. Here comes Xin Zhao. What did I say before? Xin Zhao comes through. We burn our flash, knock up, and then we got the ZR into the kill. Doesn't matter how sophisticated your laning is, guys. From a trading and a CSing perspective, if you're dying to ganks, it's going to undo a lot of that work. And so that's just definitely made our life a hell of a lot harder. Zed's going to get a shove into a reset, undoes a lot of that poke damage that we got off. And just like that, the lane is made significantly harder. Now, in this game, we've got Alawi struggling a little bit on top side. We've got bot lane dominating in the 2v2, though. Rengar's also off to a very good start. I would say our comp has some pretty solid ease of execution. So we come back, end up buying a control ward. So it'll be interesting to see if he actually uses it. He hasn't shown his ability to use wards so far in the game. But, just again, comparing this and contrasting this with other kind of bronze, I'm just going to pretend I never saw that E. Comparing this with other kind of bronze and low silver reviews that we've done so far, I would say this is leaps and bounds ahead of some of the other fundamentals that we've noticed from other laners. I would say some of these E's need to be tightened up a little bit. It looks like he is now starting to maybe panic or miss a lot of these E's. Now, this Zed is actually going for maybe Voltaic potentially first. We'll see what he goes for his first item. We know Xin Zhao is on this top side here. And we do not have our flash available, so we need to be very careful. Do end up getting our first ward of the game at 7 minutes 55. Great to see. Okay, so grubs are up. Doesn't look like we're going to be contesting that. Maybe a potential trade dragon for grubs here at this stage. Great ease. Look at the range advantage we're really playing with here. This is the strength of Viktor into Zed, especially with the Sorks. Those E's are really going to hurt. And around level 7 with 4 points on your E, these E's really start to sting. And if we can start nailing these E's bit by bit by bit by bit, it will really allow us to take over the lane. Great spacing. Guys, this is how you deal with Zed, by the way. I just really want to highlight this. This is really, really nice spacing. It's all about keeping distance. See how we're walking vertically and we're baiting out this W? See when Zed kind of walks up to WEQ? Very, very hard for Zed to land those shurikens. This is how you make Zed's life miserable. He's really switched it on there. So that's quite nice to see. You can tell he's got some okay movement. His movement's quite impressive in that regard. So Xin Zhao didn't get the grubs. Xin Zhao's actually cross-mapped onto the bot side. I don't really know why. This MF's having an absolute shocker of a game. Samira already 4-0 on the bot side. Looks like a bit of a scrap between the Rengar and then Xin Zhao here. Xin Zhao absolutely annihilating this guy. And then Xin Zhao's having a good game. So at a high level, our reference points here at this stage of the game as a Viktor is how do we establish vision, isolate the 1v1, slowly choke out the enemy with good quality ease, and ensure that we're getting good quality resets. Because at the end of the day, Viktor really is a lane bully, right? We're designed to kind of slowly chip down the enemy with good quality ease and make their life miserable, And this set doesn't have TP, so we can start landing these E's. I mean, we've missed the last 2 or 3, which obviously doesn't help, and especially since we don't have Lost Chapter, we could go But if you were to land those previous 2 or 3 E's, this Zed would have to start either just taking bad resets, and we can accrue a nice little CS lead, or we may even be able to get a kill. So, you can tell this Victor's actually doing the right thing here. We did establish vision. We are kind of shoving into the Zed, but what we're seeing is there's some inconsistent E usage and inconsistent warding and leaning. Now, we are very here. We got TP coming up in 20. I would have liked to see him stay for maybe one more so we can kind of maybe walk back because we could just probably one-shot this non-cannon wave, but it looks like he's committing to it. I'm hoping he completes that Lost Chapter. Definitely taking a long time to buy his item. He's just sacking the wave here. I don't know what's going on. So it did take a while. Maybe he was busy changing the Spotify playlist. I don't really know. Lovely. So we've got our Lost Chapter. We're farming very well for a bronze and low silver Victor. Definitely something you don't see very often. Again, this Zed is messed up resets. This is typically what we see from players. Like this Zed is a very archetypal, this is what we see, like this missed reset windows. So if we have tight fundamentals, people say, well, how do fundamentals allow me to win lane? Well, this is exactly it. Zed's missed a reset window. We've now got complete control. Zed has no way to get a reset. And assuming that we ward and lean and don't die to a Xin Zhao gang coming from the top side, we can basically take complete control of this lane, pin this guy to the tower, and continually kind of accrue that pressure lead and CS lead. So it's highly likely Xin Zhao is on that grubs on top side. Good ease here. Very, very nice. Game is pretty dead even at this stage. Our bot lane winning, but our top lane struggling. If I'm going to be a little bit nitpicky, I would, this guy could hold the wave in the middle and then go for two stack rotations. That's not something that I would ever see though in this elo bracket. That's something that I'd maybe talk about with some Emerald players. Emerald and above, or maybe Platinum and above. But for all intents and purposes, if you're just brute forcing waves like this is completely fine. But I would really like to see some intentionality with landing those E's onto the Zed here. From a ward location, not too bad. I think the next level up would be getting a good quality deep ward on the Xin Zhao's Raptors. Because remember, one way we can really have impact in the game as a any control mage for that matter, I mean, talking through Victor's lens here, is spotting the enemy jungler. Because if we can spot the enemy jungler and we know where they're pathing, that's not only going to help us, but it's going to help everyone else in the game. So a lot of people ask, how do I translate leads? If I'm taking good trades like this Victor and I've got this, Zed by the balls here, how do I, keep up? How do I translate my lead? Well, like, what can I do to impact the game? We're not a roam-oriented champion, right? Victor's not designed to roam around the map and, run around like a headless chicken. We're designed to isolate the 1v1, get played to crucius leads, and spot out the enemy jungler with good quality vision. So we are slowly chunking this guy out. I mean, this Zed, look at him. He's missed his reset window. He's sitting on 2,000 gold here. He's really, really struggling. And if we're competent, we're not going to just hard shove and give him a reset. We're going to slow build and really make it annoying for him. And this is such a shame. This reset, I mean, it's not terrible for us, but we could have also just made it really difficult for the Zed to spend his gold. It is what it is. So we get our Lunans. Game's still very even here at this stage. Very slow lane. I would say this is one of the slowest early lanes that we've covered at this particular elo bracket so far in the content series. Typically it is a lot more chaos. People are dying to more ganks. There's a lot more volatility. So very interesting. Bit of a higher level bronze / high silver VOD here. So Zed has now completed the Cyclo Sword here. I mean, typically at this stage of the lane, we're not really interacting as much. A lot of the time the lane will become a bit of a ping pong match, but every single E we do land will very much hurt the Zed. Unfortunately, our bot lane died. And something that you got to realize with Victor, I actually had a coaching session with a Victor player recently, and I said, Victor's one of those champions where knowing what to do isn't the hard part, right? The complexity of Victor isn't in the theory of the macro and all the complexities of like how to dominate the lane. It's the execution. It's the execution. It's a very mentally overwhelming champion. Hitting those E's, timing your E's with last hits, warding and leaning, good resets, all this stuff. That's the stuff that matters. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So we're kind of slowly poking out. We land a beautiful E. This guy goes in. We Q auto. We actually, maybe unintentionally, I don't know, we avoid the shuriken there. I would have liked to see a W, but a W was on cooldown. And then we end up walking back up. Vel'Koz comes in with a flash. We could have maybe flashed that, but we end up getting hit by it and died. So, Zed actually had no chance of killing us here, to be honest. I mean, and he missed all the shurikens. We can literally just walk out of this. It was a nice roam from Vel'Koz. We could have been maybe a little bit more respectful of Vel'Koz there, but it is what it is. We burnt the Vel'Koz flash, not the end of the world. And look, it's not a super bad death. We didn't burn flash. There's no neutrals up right now. We burnt, the flash of Vel'Koz and then obviously the ulti is Zed. So I wouldn't say this is a terrible death, to be honest. That's not a death that's losing ULP at this elo bracket. Okay, so look, we're still strong. I mean, we're still farmed. We've got our Ludens, we've got our Sorks. Zed's not really going to get the tower. We TP back. We've got Dragon up here. We see Xin on that bot side. I mean, look, at the end of the day, what we really want to be doing here is trying to now, again, quickly establish vision, make sure we're keeping up our farm, and then being there for major fights with our team. So bot lane tower is broken, which means that lane assignments may be getting swapped up relatively soon here. Looks like we're trying to hit the tier 1. We've got to be a little bit careful. I guess we've got some good quality vision here on this bot side. Yeah, so one of the hardest things with Viktor is it's a champion that you're not going to impact the game in a very kind of direct way. You're not running around the map and killing everyone. It's all about positioning, right place, right time, good quality farm, good quality threat assessment, rocking up to those major fights, and then being a nuisance. So this is not an easy game. It's definitely not an easy game. You've got a lot of threats, a lot of dive. You've got that Zed diving on you. You've got the Xin Zhao diving on you. You don't have a ton of front line. So this is one of those games where you're really relying on your good quality lol state usage and threat assessment. So really what we should be seeing here is a lane assignment swap with a Samira. It looks like Samira does want to swap and is moving up, but we're staying in mid. And this is the old Classico, guys. Lane assignments are always a bit of a mess. I mean, Viktor should be just swapping these lane assignments, getting in bot side, and then dealing with the Zed. We can fight Zed on the side. We're actually completely fine at this stage of the game. But now what you've got is this weird dynamic where Samira's running around the map, is not getting any access to farm, and it's like, oh, what do I do? And then finally Viktor goes here, but we've just taken one of Samira's, waves. So definitely not ideal. Okay, so, look, again, we're down true dragons. We're really in a bit of a pickle here. I mean, our jungler's on the other side of the map. Something that I'd be thinking about right now is, okay, my jungler's on top side, so I want to keep my distance, keep poking with E, and really try to stall out the game to major team fights here. Zed goes in with the WQR. We're actually completely fine here. Oh, let's take a look at how we could have played this better. I didn't think we would actually die there, so let's take a look at this one. So we E. We did keep our distance. Zed had to go for the W, R. I mean, honestly, if we kept running there and we didn't walk back into the shadow there and get E'd, we actually would have lived. It would have been completely fine. We would have burned the R and the ignite of the Zed, and it would have been completely fine. So maybe he forgot that Zed could use the E again twice on the back end because of the cooldown reduction. I'm not 100% sure. What you do see, in this elo bracket is that I don't think Zed is an overly effective champion in the lower tiers, but it's got that Yasuo effect where people have such a big mental block against the champion that it's almost as if the champ naturally becomes effective because people engage in self-sabotaging behavior and they don't spend the time to understand how the kit works. And look, to be fair, it's not exactly the easiest matchup, but if you understand the basics of the kit, you can definitely survive. And so, yeah, I mean, we're 0-3 moving into the mid game. We failed to, avoid ganks. We, haven't created a CS lead in the 1v1. We're moving into the mid game where we're even with a Zed, which is never good. And if you're coming out of lane even with a Zed, you've done something horribly wrong. Even though we had the TP advantage, we had we could have had all the vision in the world. We had the guy by the balls, but we just failed to execute. And then, giving you guys some advice, if you're moving into the mid game like 0-3 like this, I really wouldn't over-review the mid-game, especially in a game like this where it's like, okay, everyone's kind of struggling now. You don't have an obvious secondary win condition. These are the games where you need to be spending that time double downing on your early lane. So I will skim over a few instances and maybe just take a look at his mid-game here just to get a bit of context and what we see at a low silver, high bronze caliber. The ulti is invisible, unfortunately, but we're trying to chase down that Xin Our threat assessment into this Mundo is very questionable. We're really trying to walk that tightrope here. I mean, I don't mind limit testing here at this stage of the game. The game's obviously very hard. So, taking a little bit of risk and trying to get a bounty here is very respectable. So they rift. We're just trying to catch waves, do the best we can. Here comes the Alawi. If we can get a bounty onto Xin Zhao, that would be lovely. Unfortunately, we die. Okay. So I'm just going to skim forward all the way, to 22-minute mark. I mean, obviously, we're not in the greatest position. Our build is a little bit of a mess with the Ludens and Leandros, which, I mean, quite honestly, it's not that it's terrible, but, I mean, we're not really going to be doing much, is all I'm going to say. I think he should have just over-indexed and raw AP. We've got a lot of AD on our team. I think he just should have gone Luden Shadow Flame or something, just double down, or even Luden Storm Surge or Luden's Lich Bane or whatever. Just go full Glass Cannon, screw it. So the reference point that I would follow at this point in time is really try to be there for major neutral objective fights to the best of my ability and play fights. Alternatively, you could, if we're going to get a bit spicy, you could get into the side lane and call hover for your Rengar, but that's not really something that I would ever expect from this elo bracket. It's a little bit too sophisticated. And quite honestly, I don't think there's a ton we can take away from this mid game. They're getting absolutely annihilated. It looks like they're just Mundo's taking over the mid game. We've already lost all of our towers, and we're basically at the end here. So, look, I think this was a very, very interesting VOD because there were some things that this Viktor did that was very good. He could tell his CSing was great. His E usage was hit or miss. His wave management was okay. Like, he wasn't just mindlessly hard jumping in the early game. His resets had a bit of intention. You can see he was thinking about spending gold at major kind of power spikes. But the biggest thing that hurt this guy was the lack of warding and leaning. And this is the type of player that if you can plug that one of those major weaknesses, what I call these 20%, is they're the type of players that can really kind of get massive gains in LP. But again, we are seeing that inconsistent early lane fundamentals, which is, very, very common so far in this bronze content series. Moving on to our second Viktor VOD. This one is from an Emerald 2 Viktor main. We can see that he is definitively a Viktor main, not having the most success, unfortunately. 49% win rate over 65 games. And we're going to be taking a look at this one here, which is an absolute schmozzle. 15-12. Now, look, you can see with this guy's gameplay at the moment, he seems like a very kind of plateaued player. He seems very kind of plateaued here. I mean, if we take a look at his tier graph, he's kind of bouncing between low diamond, high emerald. He definitely seems like he's in a bit of a rut. I think he's kind of bouncing between these two elo brackets. It seems like he definitely is struggling from a threat assessment perspective. He's gotten relatively high average deaths. So, look, let's get into the details here. We'll take a look at where he's at. Now, in Emerald, I would really expect to see some higher quality lane fundamentals, obviously a degree of matchup understanding, and hopefully we can get into the weeds of the mid game here as well. Now, in this game, we're versing a Mel. Very favorable matchup for Viktor. The reason it's very favorable is that Mel doesn't get a ton of value from the W, and we also just kind of stat check in the earlier stages. We have lower cooldowns, we have a lot of lane control, and we can kind of run over and accrue a little bit of a lead in that early stage. Versing a Kha'Zix, medium threat jungler, I wouldn't say super low threat, but I also wouldn't say super high threat. So across the board, a relatively solid Viktor game. There's not a ton of crazy threat. I would say all very manageable champions. The only challenge we're going to face this game is the fact that we don't have a ton of peel on our team. We don't have a ton of frontline. So it ends up hovering around in a very awkward location, by the way, guys. If you're going to go for the level 1 ward, go for the level 1 ward. You don't want to be dancing around here doing doughies around this area. You don't want to constantly show yourself because who knows, maybe they're sitting in that bush right there, which is exactly where the Lux was. So I'll be honest, I don't actually even like going for a level 1 ward into these sorts of champions. Any level 1 support that has really good kind of defense, Nautilus, Lux, even Bard, these sorts of champions, Karma, I would never do it. I would actually just go for either a late level 1 ward, or in this case, we're going to get Shove anyway. You can go for a 220 ward, 215 ward. That way, you get the best of both worlds. You're not going to have to burn your flash. In this case, he burns flash, which is not the end of the world into a Mel, but definitely not pleasant. So we've opted in for the E start, which you can. You definitely can do that. Into mage matchups, you can definitely do that. Some people prefer Q to play a little bit faster. but it's not the end of the world. So doing a pretty good job. I like the high value E's. We are getting the shove. We've landed 2 out of 2 so far, which is great to see. I like how we're trying to pump out those autos and get a little bit of shove here. Typically in a lot of these mage matchups, we really want to try and contest that shove. I like how we're also kind of standing outside the wave and making this Mel make a choice between us and the wave with those Qs. Looks like Kha'Zix actually walked over the water, went for a bit of a verticals. Now, I don't know if this guy actually saw that. We try to leverage our level 2 there. Probably a little bit of an overstep. I would have liked to keep it neat and tidier there and try to get that level 2 and get in and out. But yeah, we do take a bit of a spicy trade on the back end. I will say we're at a bit of an advantage here. We've already burnt both of Mel's pots. We have got that slight advantage. This guy's doing a very good job from a positioning perspective. I love how he's not just sitting in the middle of the lane, and I love how he's posturing up more aggressively in his pockets. This is what was actually missing to a certain degree in the previous VOD with that Silver 4/Bronze 1 player, where he was landing ease, but he was making his life harder because he wasn't posturing aggressively enough. Okay, so there's that W. That's fine. And yeah, maybe he didn't see Kha'Zix go for that vertical. You know, his mental stack was overwhelmed by the 1v1, didn't see Kha'Zix, and as a result, we died of the early gank. So again, guys, we're seeing that inconsistent warding, leaning, lack of jungle tracking first clear, and now we're going to we luckily turn it into a 1-for-1, but it very easily could have been worse than that. And so already, guys, if you're watching this, you know, especially if you're like you're in, I would say, any rank from gold 4 and above, if you're not tracking first clear and you're not having intention with your first ward, you're going to struggle. You're in a mobile mage. Whenever you're loading into a game and you're playing in a mobile mage like that of Viktor, you've got a giant target on your back. Everyone wants to kill you, right? That's the way, that's your mindset. That's the way you got to think about it. So protect yourself at all times, you know, just like you get in a car and you put on your seatbelt, exactly same premise. And now again, Kha'Zix knows that you don't have flash. So what is Kha'Zix going to do when you're extended wave set? You're going to get ganked. And the way I like to learn from these guys, you know, one of my favorite ways to view this is if I'm Kha'Zix, why would I do this? We know what Kha'Zix's path is, right? He did a vertical and then he looped back onto his top side. And now, again, if you're overextended with no flash with the wave and Narnia like this, we need to be heavy leaning and moving down this way towards our Fury, or just completely again, trying to get the wave out faster so we don't have to stay in that location. And nowadays, junglers are a lot more on point. They're a lot more aware of your flash timers. And you know, you may say, oh, jungle diff, my jungler didn't gank, but how is Nefiri going to gank? That's not what Nefiri's strength is. And where the wave was, Nefiri had no kill threat. You know, it's your responsibility to kind of protect yourself at all times. So Jackson, I'm assuming that's his name, he's not off to the greatest start here. Some sloppy fundamentals. So continuing on, Viktor's in a little bit of a hole. You know, we're definitely down a little bit of gold here. Mel's going to have some additional stats on top of us. Definitely not a great situation to be in. And at the end of the day, you know, if we're playing Viktor and we're not accruing that early lead, transitioning into the mid game is going to be a little bit tricky. Now, in the meantime, as we're going over this, you know, for those of you who don't already know, we have a free school community where there's free tier lists, improvement tier lists, meta tier lists. We have a climbing masterclass and a champ pool masterclass. If you're interested and you're gonna, you know, you want some access to free content, check it out. There's actually a link in the description below. So now in this case, really what I'm going to be looking for is stabilizing the lane, good warding, good leaning, really trying to get to some of our key spikes, level 7, lost chapter. And yeah, and again, Kha'Zix showed on top side in that lull state and we die again. Guys, take a look at this. Kha'Zix showed in the lull state before. If we're aware of what's happening on the map, we should know that Kha'Zix is on the top side, right? And so, you know, we should already be heavy leaning now on that bot side. We know where the Kha'Zix is. Let's just chill out and then heavy lean. But again, we're not thinking about where the Kha'Zix is. Obviously, we hadn't used our lull states and we get caught off guard again. So very, very, very sloppy fundamentals. You can see this guy has no problem with trading. His trading's actually pretty good. You know, his trading seemed okay. You know, his micro seemed okay. He was actually positioning in the lane from an actual, you know, pocket, standing in those pockets was actually quite impressive. It's just been that warding and leaning, which has been the kind of the bane of his existence here. So we have Flash coming up in 15 seconds. This guy, I'm assuming, is now getting very angry at getting quote-unquote camped. And this is where those narratives about jungle diff and, you know, I'm getting camped. If you're getting camped, that's on you. That means you've really messed up somewhere. That there's some element of your threat assessment or fundamentals that have been missing. Now, More broadly in the game, Nefiri's doing okay, Botlane's doing okay. The game's looking pretty solid. We're still going for those beautiful high value E's. You know, surprisingly, we are still going to be okay in the 1v1 here. Like, I think, you know, we are down about 600 or so, 500 or so gold, but at the same time, you know, Viktor into Mel is a completely fine matchup. So we should theoretically be able to chill, farm, scale without Mel becoming too much of a nuisance. So as you can see, he started to really tighten up his wave management. He's being a little bit more intentional with his slow building. This would be a nice little ward window when there's no minions that are dying. So here, you would actually duck off onto one side and get a ward preemptively as the wave is slow building out. You don't want to hard shove the wave in, then ward, because then you're vulnerable as the wave is slow building out. So as you can see, he's also struggling with what makes a warding window, right? So a warding window, remember back here, when after he got these minions, right here, boom, great. Move into one of these sides and get a ward. You can loop around here conservatively, get a ward over there. You can move into over here, get a ward over here. These are all viable options. The last thing you want to do now is keep the wave in this location and not lean to one side, because now look at this. We're just getting zoned. Now he's shitting himself. He's thinking, oh my God, where's Kazik? Oh my God, what do I do? And, you know, he's just hoping that he just doesn't die to a Kazik's gank. Okay, so we'll fast forward a little bit here. Kaziks did show on top side, so we know that we're in the isolated 1v1. Posturing up a little bit aggressively here, now that we know where Kha'Zix is. We know that Kha'Zix is on that top side, so we can be leaning on bot side. And this is where I want to be seeing those high value E's. And now that we have our E upgrade, you know, we should be able to kind of minimize very easily. Yep, leaning on the bot side, which is excellent. Do use that R for lane control. I love that. Mel has no W, and we're able to get a really nice little trade and a flash. Lovely. Great W, great R. Great positioning in the lane there. Really great to see. So pings the flash. Our bot side in this case doing a very good job, and we go for a flash kill. I like it. I don't mind it. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, sure, we are, you know, vulnerable to the Kha'Zix, but if we can solo kill our lane opponent, that's going to give us a bit of an edge back into the game. And we had vision, so theoretically we could. I like that play. I have no problem with it. And you can really see that his trading in isolation is quite good. And now he's stabilized the lane. I mean, he's only down 200 or so gold. He's spiking actually much earlier than the Mel because the Mel's gone for the Saras build path. We're in a very good position here. So now it's typically in the late stages of the lane like this as a Viktor, where we're trying to keep it neat and tidy, warding and leaning, being there for major neutral objective fights. And most importantly, guys, protect yourself at all times. The longer the lane goes in these major matchups, the less interactive they get because majors start to get a lot of wave clear. So it gets harder and harder to play for the 1v1 without the waves just disappearing. So top lane definitely struggling, the Aatrox into set. That's actually a good matchup for Aatrox, so it looks like that set's played it quite well. Jhin, you know, doing a very good job already on Collector, so we've got some really powerful skirmishing on that bot side. No neutral objectives up for now, so we're in a bit of a downtime. And especially since we have now very limited vision around mid, which seemingly, again, he forgot to use his trinket, and no flash, we're under a lot of threat. He needs to be very conservative, and as you can see, he's definitely being a lot more timid with his lane wave management and positioning in the lane. But it's still a band-aid solution. You know, at the end of the day, if you've got good warding and leaning, we shouldn't have to be sitting back in Narnia over here, giving Mel complete control over the wave. Okay, so I would love to see him one-shot this wave and get a ward out. Looks like he's not going to do that. Our E's are really hurting this Mel, though, which is great to see. We have no idea where Kha'Zix is here. Lovely. Looks like we're trying to go for a reset relatively soon here to get our Ludens. I like it. I mean, there's no neutral objectives up. There's no reason to stay. Kha'Zix showing on that top side. And now we've got our Ludens. Now, just from a build path perspective, like I do think this is a pretty good game for Ludens. I mean, you're versing a lot of squishies. We have a lot of AD on our team, so you're going to pump out a shit ton of damage. I hope he doesn't go something silly like Liandry second. I would like to see just raw damage. I would like to see a Shadow Flame, Storm Surge, Lichbane, something like that. Again, considering that we're sole AP. Okay, again, another good ward window. Please, Jackson. No, he loves the ARAM. He loves just sitting in the middle of the lane. Here I am, guys. Come and kill me. Is he going to ward? Okay, we do find a Wild Lux and do get a kill. Okay. So it does cost our ultimate. Not too bad, though. We get a nice little kill. No neutral objectives up for a little bit. Still no vision. We still don't have flash either. So reference point wise, people say, well, what should I do at this stage of the game outside of protecting myself? Now, I'm really just contemplating who else in my team is strong. Aatrox is in a bit of a hole. I'm not going to be too concerned about my Aatrox. We've got Jin on bot side, 5 and 2 rock and rolling with a strong Karma. That's the side of the map that I'm probably going to be directing a little bit more attention towards. So he's looking to stack dragons on that bot side would be definitely one of my main objectives here. And looking to scrap with my Nefiri, I think our mid jungle 2v is not the strongest. But yeah, continuing to bully mid. And if we get a man event, if we get some, a bit of a HP advantage, sure. But really fighting around bot, any opportunity to fight around bot like this is great. And as you can see, Jin is absolutely popping off. Beautiful. I mean, I don't know if I fully agree with the overcommit here. I mean, we could have easily just gone back mid, but we're going deep for this one. The reason I don't like this is that these guys are already worth nothing. You got a 1 and 4 Lux, a 0-4 Tristana. What would have made way more sense is just stay mid, let your team clean up the kills, and then that way we don't bleed all the farm. But look, he gets the kill. It is what it is. Bit lucky. Dragon also coming up here. And it wouldn't surprise me if the laner summons are going to swap up soon, since that tower I can't imagine lasting that long moving into the mid game. So look, this is going to be, this transition is a little bit boring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move straight into the 15, 16 minute mark. Let's go straight to 16:45. Let's take a look at, let's go back here off this deployment. Okay. So the map's opened up. We can see we're quite strong. We're actually ahead of the Mel. Moving into the mid game, we've got 1 dragon each. Jin's quite strong. Set's quite strong. Kha'Zix is going to be a little bit of a nuisance as well since we're full glass cannon. So we have no flash, no TP. Okay. So this is where the map's opening up a little bit here. So the way you want to, really navigate this mid game, or what I'm going to be looking for from this Viktor is how is he going to orient himself around neutral objectives, and what is he going to do when there aren't any neutral objectives? One of the giant kind of, I guess, differentiating factors I'm noticing in this content series so far, specifically between Emerald and Challenger, is that Emerald players, they've got typically a really good foundation. Their fighting is usually quite good. I think they do understand their champ's identity, but they really struggle to slow down the game in the mid game. And when there's moments they shouldn't be doing anything, they struggle to say no. So again, it's not about the plays you always make. It's about the plays you sometimes say no to as well. So right now, this is awkward, right? There's no neutrals up. We're on the weak side. Our team's on the other side of the map. So we need to be chilling the hell out. And here, what do we see straight away, guys? We can't help ourselves but making a play on the weak side. So here, from Viktor's perspective, because we have all this vision on bot side and our jungler's on the other side of the map, this unfortunately is not our wave to contest. So what he was doing here by getting the Krugs is actually very intelligent. This is exactly what we needed to do. Now, the next step, though, unfortunately, is that we can't go to this wave. We should just either sit back here, we can hover over here, or to be honest, I would actually be fine just sitting back here and waiting for the wave to come out. Mel's going to hard shove it. There's nothing for us to do on mid. We just got to chill the hell out. And again, learning to say no and learning to not do anything is very hard. It's easier said than done. Learning to read the map state and understanding when you can posture aggressively or contest the wave and when you can't is a skill within itself. And I haven't seen this VOD before, and it was literally on cue. Moving into the mid game, we make a play where we shouldn't make a play. We contest the wave that we shouldn't, and we get punished for it. And you can really see that this Viktor's struggling to understand, like just from a threat assessment perspective, what he can and can't do into the Kha'Zix. So, we've got Dragon coming up here. We don't have TP, but neither does Aatrox. We're in a little bit of an awkward scenario. This is where things get very awkward because we've got to think to ourselves, well, Dragon's coming up here. I don't have TP. Aatrox doesn't either. If Mel shows topside, well, what the hell am I going to do? And so now it's a bit awkward. So, look, Mel doesn't have TP either, so he should be okay. I respect it. I think maybe what I would have recommended is maybe go top for one wave, shove it out, then move. It looks like we probably would have had enough time for that. Alternatively, if you felt as though you didn't trust your team not to get picked, I think grouping through mid, shoving mid wave together and moving in as a team to get vision would have also been good here. So we see a little bit of action. Looks like Nefiri's trying to get a pick onto the Kha'Zix. Nefiri getting a really very aggressive here. Great W. Set going ham. Didn't play the greatest around that set, are there? And there's definitely some lapses in game understanding, I think, or misunderstandings about key threat. We're getting hit by Lux Binds. We're getting hit by set Rs. We're getting picked by Kha'Zix. This Viktor really needs to spend a lot of time working on, what other champs do into him. He's a great Viktor player. His Viktor in isolation is great, right? He knows how to hit lasers. He knows how to be a bit of a nuisance. it's not about him as a Viktor player, and it's about expanding his game knowledge. What does the enemy doing to me? How can I better understand what this Kha'Zix wants to do to me, or what this Lux or Set wants to do to me? And again, time and time again, it's his threat assessment that is causing him problems. It's, sure, macro, you can argue his macro needs a bit of work with topside, but I would actually argue that his macro decisions are stemming from his lack of sophisticated threat assessment. They kind of go hand in hand. And this is something that more broadly, like, I do want to talk about, we are talking about it through the Viktor lens, but, that Emerald to Diamond climb and that Diamond 4 to Master Tier climb, it's slowly building up that library of information and knowledge and expanding that game knowledge past your champ's identity. How does Viktor interact with Kha'Zix? How does Viktor interact with Set? How does Viktor interact with Mel? Really getting into the champ specifics and the interactions, the kit interactions. So, coming out of base here, our team is doing the Atacon on spawn. I don't like this deployment topside. I think someone needs to cover mid. So if he was a little bit more switched on, he should have instantly deployed mid, covered mid, and then we can have a little bit more adaptability moving mid to bot. Now, we do have TP here just in case a fight were to break out. So we cover mid here. Tristana isn't moving. We're TPing deep. We're going in the back line here, are we? Okay. Bring it on. So we get onto the back line. We are fighting with our Aatrox. Not the TP that I expected. I thought he'd be TPing on the other side of the fight, to be honest with you. E goes to Narnia, forgets about the Kha'Zix, and dies. So, if we dissect this whole sequence, I think covering mid here is great. Obviously, when people are doing these chaotic Atacon fights, we know that people's resistances are shredded. It gets quite volatile. Look, we don't want to be flanking. We don't want to be coming in from behind. I want to be coming over here, right? Jin, Karma are strong members. I want to be TPing here on that ward there, maybe even over here. I want to be coming in over here, right? Because now look at this. Now we got our team fighting on this top side. We're kind of in the back line flanking. And all of a sudden, if we freeze frame right now, look at this. We got Aatrox going on this guy. We got Jin dead. We got Karma running away to the tower. It's just a shit show. And Viktor does not thrive in these sorts of chaotic environments. We don't want people coming in from multiple directions. We need people coming in from a cone, a funnel. That's kind of the type of way that, the type of fights that we're really looking for here. And, and we really suffer the consequences. And now we're moving into the 21-minute mark with 7 deaths. Not acceptable. So fast forwarding here. Now, Viktor does not have TP. We've actually got a much better build this game. I do like the loot into Shadowflame Raw Burst, especially when we're sole AP here, basically. The challenge is now, how do we maintain adaptability on the map when neither you or Aatrox have TP? So we'll take a look at this. We do catch the shallow wave here. So typically what we want to be doing here is some shoving and moving. So we don't have any eyes on Kha'Zix, so we can't really shove much deeper than this. So I'd be shoving, clearing these shallow waves, and then regrouping mid here. Yep, checking those bushes with the E. I don't like, stay mid. Come on, buddy. You can do it. And the reason I like rotating mid here is because our Jin is rotated top, so someone's going to have to cover mid anyway. That is not our wave. We don't have the information to go for that. I would also recommend swapping to Blue Trinket at this phase of the game because we don't actually have, a ton of control in this mid game. I think having Blue Trinket would give us the ability to kind of face check and maneuver the side lane a little bit more effectively here. So we do see Kha'Zix on top. This will give us the go button. Excellent. Kha'Zix still on top side, so we can shove this one out a little bit deeper. I would even go maybe another wave there if you really wanted to. So it looks like a wild Lux appears here. So warded? Interesting. I don't blame this guy. I think I probably would have died to that as well. Not going to lie. All right, so we'll fast forward a little bit here. We are really getting into the weeds. I don't want to get too much into the crazy shit here. I think we've found a lot of beautiful learnings. Maybe look at one more deployment here. Baron coming up in about a minute. Bot waves in Narnia. There's no way in hell we're going there. We got Dragon coming up in about 50 seconds. So what I want to be seeing here is orienting ourselves around those major neutral objectives, grouping up for team fights like this, front to backs, beautiful, making sure that we're keeping it neat and tidy with our team. And now we can turn these one fights into major neutral objectives. So turning this into a dragon would be ideal. This would be our 3rd dragon, give us a beautiful, put us on soul point, which would be great to see. Now we do have TP, so I don't mind the overcommitment here. And we know Kha'Zix is dead, so we're not really threatened. And Mel's on bot side. I love this actually, because now we drag Tristana to top. Tristana doesn't have TP, and now we're going to have an obvious man advantage on that bot side of the map. So really, really good. This is kind of also similar to, reminds me of the Yasuo one we're looking at with Toast, that challenger Yasuo player, how he's really min-maxing his side lane impact, specifically by playing on the opposite side of the neutral objective. So unfortunately, the enemy steal it. We get the next wave. We need to be very careful here because we're on the weak side. Yep, good. I like how we regroup here. Now, the enemy go for a very creative sneak of Baron. Wow. Here we go. Beautiful. So throw into a throw. We lose the dragon. They overcommit onto Baron. Respect the call, though. I got to respect it. I mean, I think, these creative Barons, early in the game are really quite good. So, look, I don't think there's too much here I'd really want to cover. I think we've covered the main thing. So what I would take away from this, number one, threat assessment, guys. We saw poor jungle tracking in the first clear, poor warding and leaning. Potentially a result of threat assessment. Threat assessment, warding and leaning, jungle tracking all go hand in hand, right? If we're not feeling threatened by the enemy jungler, we're not going to be incentivized to ward and lean. This person had massive lapses I would say just massive gaps in their skirmishing. We saw in the later stages, some of these skirmishes, the quality of their getting hit by random skill shots. Like here in this fight, we end up allowing, wasn't this one, sorry, I think it was one of these further fights over here where we got like body slammed by the set. I think it might have been, was it bots out here? Yeah. We got like body slammed by the set, which we weren't factoring in how set R works. We then ran into the Lux bind. We continue to run forwards after this. I think we get Lux binded again here. You can see how there's these lapses or gaps in knowledge about what other champs do to him. So this is a Viktor player that's very good at Viktor. He's a great Viktor player. He knows how to land E's. He knows how to be a lane bully. He even knows how to team fight for the most part. He knows his champ's identity. But it's that understanding of how his kit interacts with other kits, which is fundamentally holding him back. So this is the sort of player that needs to be reviewing these key moments from other people's perspective. If I was Lux, why would I do that? If I was Set, why would I do that? If I was Kha'Zix, why would I do that? And that's how he's going to really level up his sophistication of gameplay. And that's how he's going to really bolster up his threat assessment, which would hopefully have an impact on his macro, would have an impact on his team fight positioning, which we saw that funky positioning around the Atacon, and hopefully some of his early warding and leaning. So very interesting. Probably not as clean as I had thought it would be, but welcome to League of Legends. Moving on to the third Viktor player, we're covering here Mighty Kraus03, who is a high Grandmaster Viktor main. As we can see, 72 games in this split here. Doing an okay job, not the most amazing. Now, the game we're going to be covering here is a pretty high elo lobby. He's actually versing Cat Evolved, an ex-pro player, very high elo player. We've got a bunch of challenges and Grandmasters in this game. Very keen to see how he goes. He ends up popping off in this game. So let's go ahead and take a look to see the quality of this Viktor gameplay. Now, in this game, the first thing that really jumps out to me is that he's opted in for First Strike. I don't like First Strike on Viktor personally, especially into these range matchups. Obviously, it's great for scaling. The reason I'm not a massive fan of First Strike on Viktor is that I've always felt that it's kind of counterintuitive to his identity. Viktor being a lane bully, you're kind of incentivized to really leverage your early lane strength. I've always been a massive fan of Airy, Comet, those sorts of, lane runes, even Electro for all intents and purposes, or Grasp. I just don't like First Strike. You're going to scale anyway as Viktor. And especially in these, if I look at this lobby, I'm seeing like a pretty volatile top matchup. I'm seeing a very volatile bot matchup. Chances are it's going to be pretty heavy trading, fast paced, and especially in high low lobbies, the game paces are pretty fast. So I'm not a massive fan. If we take a look at his runes specifically, he's got Magical Footwear. I do like Triple Tonic. Admittedly, I'm a big fan of Triple Tonic, but he's gone mega scaling. He's gone scaling HP, Mana Flow, Transcendence, First Strike, Magical Footwear. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes with it. We are versing Nefiri, which is a relatively low threat jungler pre-6. Post-6, there's a little bit of threat there. Also, gank setup from the Rise. Let's go ahead and take a look. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes Q-Start into a Rise, because it's a relatively low range matchup here. Okay, so it looks like Rise is warded level 1 there. Yep, go for the Q-Start. We proc that Bone Plating. Lovely. Now, we didn't go for a level 1 ward, so it'll be interesting to see if he goes for a 215 or something like that ward to spot out Nefiri's first clear. We don't know where she has started. Doing a pretty good job of spacing Rise here. Playing around our Q cooldown beautifully. Beautiful spacing. Very, very nice spacing, actually. Love that. Doing an excellent job playing around the Q cooldown, not allowing Rise to punish our Q cooldown. Lovely. Get that level 2 first. Unfortunately, miss our E. Okay, so bot lane off to a good start. This is the challenge. If you don't get that early prio, getting that early ward out can be a little bit sketchy. Now, in this case, again, because it isn't a Fury, it's relatively low threat. It's not the end of the world. But in other games, it can be. Now, Pantheon has gone for that early ward, so now we know the path of Neferi. So we know Neferi has done that top to bot here. We can already see the lane pace being quite fast. Going for the 2 points of the E, which is good. Beautiful high value E through the wave onto the Rise. Standing outside the wave so Rise can't get those high value EQs. Nice trading from the Rise here. And honestly, I mean, if Viktor had gone area, I mean, this lane would be definitely very different. Very, very aggressive here from the Rise. And to be honest, Rise is probably going to die on the back end. And so quite honestly, if I'm getting into the details here, I think that Rice has just played this too fast. I think he's overplayed his hand. I mean, you can see that he was trying to go for that flash WEQ. What ended up happening, though, is that he ended up mis-executing. And I actually think Viktor should have died. So if we get really granular, Rise, what he had to do here is go for the E, wait for his W coming up in 1 second, flash W, get the root, and then QEQ. QE auto, sorry, and he probably would have killed, but because he missed the Q, he doesn't get the kill, and now he's exposed on the back end, and then all Viktor has to do is land that E. So very fast pace, a lot going on. I mean, I respect Rise for really going for the limit testy play there, but quite honestly, Rise probably overplaying his hand, and because we're a Viktor with the Q shield, we're able to kind of get it done. So I rest my case from a rune perspective either way. So we end up going for nope. Okay, so thank God we get the refill, which is good to see. Wukong ended up trying to pressure for a bit of a vertical. Luckily doesn't get caught off guard here. Now we know that Rise has no flash. Pantheon coming through. Good. Try to change CC with the W. Can't quite do it. Don't know why he didn't go for the E there. Wave's in a very awkward position. We really need to go back to the wave. As we can see, very fast pace. Things going on everywhere. Invades, support roams, shit hitting the fan. So we should theoretically have a lot of control of the lane now. We know that Rise has no flash, had a pretty shocking early base with the Ruby Crystal. We've come back with the Am Tomb and the Sapphire Crystal. Okay, lovely. And now what I want to see from this guy is beautiful warding and leaning and really just trying to time those E's with last hits. And because this Rise has missed so much farm, we're up quite a bit of XP here. We're level 5 into his level 3. He's going to be digging level 4 soon, but we're up about a level, which is pretty crazy. And that's because of when Rise died, the wave was in a bit of an unfortunate position. Nice ease. Very, very good. Thresh is going to be on a bit of a roam window here, but we've got excellent vision, so we shouldn't really have a problem dealing with it. Pantheon also hovering here beautifully. Excellent. Instantly replacing our vision. Very nice. Great E. I love the aggressive posturing here. I love how we're sitting up in that pocket, leaning onto the side of our ward here. Thresh on that roam window on that top side, as I was mentioning before. Really, really good job of leveraging now our HP advantage. I mean, this Rise is in a terrible position after taking those bad trades. Didn't come back with any pots and is now in a pretty big hole. So now we've got this guy basically by the scruff of the neck. He can't really do anything. And now it's our job as a Viktor to really ride this lead home. We want to make it hard for Rise to get a reset. We see Neferi on bot side, so when we're in the isolated 1v1 here, Thresh theoretically could be hovering. But if we kind of space and lean on that bot side, we should be okay. And there's Thresh, and now we know we're in that isolated 1v1. And this is what Viktor loves, just being an absolute nuisance, posting up under tower, spacing with those E's, throwing down those W's, just being a real, real big problem. So it looks like Rise is going to go for a recall. Wouldn't surprise me if we see R for lane control or R for a reset. Chooses not to use R here, actually. Some Viktors would have R'd that into a reset just to get a little bit of tempo and deny more farm, but it looks like we're sticking around here. Okay, get the wave out. Lovely. Sitting on a decent amount of gold. We should be able to complete our lost chapter here. Okay, so lost chapter. Working towards potentially our Ludens. Now, top lane's kind of struggling a little bit, but, Mbess is not the strongest early laner. Wukong chilling. Nefiri's a little bit strong. Bot lane going pretty back and forth here. I think Draven has a little bit of an edge. Ryze has a bit of move and level 6. Could be roaming topside here. So if we go back and take a look at this, Ryze could theoretically roam topside. And we have a lot of heavy trading going on here on topside, but we kind of see him recall. So we can naturally assume that he's probably going to commit to that, given that he didn't have the greatest recall and didn't have any pots in his inventory here. So what we want to see, and hopefully contrasting from the past Emerald VOD, is warding and leaning. Thresh probably going to be roaming a lot given the volatility of bot lane. Nefiri hitting level 6 soon, which is obviously going to pose threats onto us. And considering at this stage of the game, we have Flash coming up in 10 seconds, we've got to be very careful. So there's Thresh. This is a nice little ward window for us if we want to go for it, but we already have that control, I guess, on bot side thanks to our team, which is great to see. So Ryze really, kind of wants to kind of shove and move here. We want to make it difficult for Ryze to shove and move. Now, it will be quite difficult for us to isolate the 1v1 because, Ryze with Catalyst, he can kind of just trade HP for the wave. So here comes Pantheon. Love the aggressive posturing here, trying to make Ryze make a choice between us and the wave. We end up going for a very aggressive lane control R. Here comes the Ryze R. Oh, that maybe would have killed if we landed that one. So let's take a look at this. So first things first, you can see the attention to detail. He's leaning on the top side of the lane to try and incentivize Ryze to kind of walk on the other side diagonally. But if we kind of swap the vision here, this was warded. So, there was no, Ryze was able to stand his ground on the top side of the lane here. But in the process of pushing this Ryze onto the top or trying to push Ryze onto the bot side of the lane, we've kind of compromised our own leaning and safety, right? Because our vision is on the bot side, our team is on the bot side, which is now given the opportunity for Nefiri to capitalize on this play here. So this is one of the, the challenges of balancing what's good for me offensively versus what's really going to be good for me defensively. And as a result, Nefiri is able to come through. And quite honestly, I think Nefiri misplayed. If Nefiri played this better and landed the Q1, Q2, we may have been in a bit of trouble. But look, we just survived. We have our TP, so it's not the end of the world. We can burn that flash, get the remainder of the farm, base TP, and come back without really missing too much farm here. So it wouldn't surprise me if we E the wave into a reset. We are sticking around, maybe because we have access to plants. We'll see if he sticks around here. Okay, so it looks like he is committing to the recall. Wukong looking for a play on bot side. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a bit of a split map with Nefiri on the grubs here, given that Wukong showed on bot side. But we come back and we're actually going for the BFT, which is fine. Personal preference gives us a little bit more sustained damage, a little bit more wave clear. And again, I guess that's a good call because I don't think we're going to be bursting anyone in this game anyway. So yeah, we've got a pretty El Clasico split map scenario. Nefiri on the top side, our jungler on the bot side. And so we just put our body in the area. We see, looks like Ryze maybe going for a TB here to try and back up his team. Here we go. Why is Ryze so low? What happened? What happened here? Okay, so Ryze never based. What is he doing? I mean, if you're not going to base, that's fine, but then you never want a TP here. Was he basing? So it looks like, I think what happened here is he didn't realize that his base didn't go through, so he canceled his recall with his TP, and then he ended up being, arriving here on low HP. So, wow, what a big blunder. And to make matters worse, completely disrespects the Pantheon, walks up into the Pantheon, gets rooted, and then just dies. I mean, very, very sloppy from the Ryze here, and I would probably expect better from Catavolt here, to be honest with you. But again, League's a very mentally overwhelming game, and maybe he wasn't having his best game. So we beautifully hover. I love the movement from the Viktor here, complimenting his team. I mean, an argument could be made to stay mid, but I like it. I mean, we knew that Nefiri was on top side. His team was posturing up very aggressively, and we were able to capitalize on that with some good quality macro. Okay, so it looks like we're keeping the lane assignments here, which I don't mind. It's probably more efficient for us to shove this next one, reset, and then swap later on. So we do stick around on the map here, which I respect. I guess the positive of this is that we will be syncing up our pressure with the team a little bit more effectively. So good. An argument could be made to reset. An argument could also be made to stay. So now we're just chilling in this isolated 1v1 with this Corki. I don't want to spend too much time here. This is completely straightforward. Zoning, good zoning W's here. I mean, we know that we're not under a ton of threat here. When was the last time we saw Nefiri? When did we see Nefiri? Okay, so Nefiri was topside there and just died. Okay, so that's why we're able to posture up aggressively here. We know that Nefiri is dead. There's no way Nefiri can be here in time, so we're able to posture up nice and aggressively. Very good. Okay, we're chilling. Nefiri again showing on mid, and Ryze is dead and Thresh is mid, so we can posture up as aggressively as we want to here. And that's why, again, you can see he's able to walk up, be a bit of a nuisance. Lovely. Go for the ER here, trying to push this Corki off the tower here. End up staying for one more. And it wouldn't surprise me if we go for a reset here, syncing up beautifully with our team. Now, he's decided to stay. I don't like this at all. I think this is a big mistake. I mean, yeah, sure, you're getting the plate gold, but we don't need that gold. I would rather the tempo, get back on the map with the team. But he's greeted for the gold. It is what it is. And it looks like we may get punished on the back end, though. This is the consequences of staying. Now, luckily, looks like his jungler is in the area to hover him here. This Ryze is pumping out a lot of, this Wukong's pumping out a lot of damage. Creates a lot of space for us. And I would say that's luck, quite honestly. I don't think that was a very strategic overstay. I mean, you can kind of see he just greeted for the plate and got bailed out by his jungler. So, welcome to League of Legends. I guess us mid laners are greedy creatures. We definitely love our gold here. So, in terms of reference points, we've got a shit ton of gold. We've got Dragon coming up relatively soon. We want to get back onto the map and make sure we're there for those major neutral objectives. We've got our BFT. We've ended up going for the Mercs, which I respect. And we're versing a Ryze and a Thresh. So it's definitely, not too bad at all. The lane assignments have just stayed as it is, which is completely fine. We're chilling into the Corki here. Our Draven is getting very juicy alongside our Pantheon. We do not have TP, so we have very limited adaptability here. We see Ryze. Again, Nefiri dead, so we can posture up as aggressively as we want here. Shove, 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 shove. So we see a bit of action, so we decide to go for the shove and move. I don't even like this. I think you could probably have just kept whacking away on bot, to be honest, but it looks like we're cross-mapping to cover mid here, which is also completely viable. Okay, looks like we're covering mid. Dragon is up. Don't know if the enemy are going to be able to sneak this one. We are quite far behind in tempo. So straight away, I guess, what we are seeing in comparison to some of the other VODs is that this Viktor is hyper aware of the map state. He may not be making the best decision, but his decisions have merit. You can tell he is hyper aware of his teammates' locations. He's covering for mid when his bot lane had died. He knows when he can posture up aggressively. And he knows when he can't. His early warning and leaning was very nice and very clean. His fundamentals were quite good. His accuracy is quite good. And look, quite honestly, the difference, the only difference from an ability usage perspective, I would say that his R usage is quite clean. But the main difference is really just coming down to the fundamentals, the threat assessment, the warding and the leaning, and the awareness of his teammates' location. We're starting to see a trend in this content series, guys, where it really is, people say, fundamentals are overrated. And, I, for one, sometimes get, maybe get a little bit, I wouldn't say, it's not that I get complacent with fundamentals. I just don't maybe talk about them as much as sometimes I should. But the fundamental, I would say specifically that's relevant for Viktor is that threat assessment, is really constantly calibrating the map state, being hyper aware of our teammates' location, understanding what we can and can't do here. So I love the awareness here, jungler hovering over, not overly complicated, but again, Viktor's not a champion that's complex based off the macro and the what to do. It's the execution. So we're complementing our jungler here. We know that we have, the kind of the man advantage. Go maybe a little bit deep there onto the Fury. I would have liked to see him peel back a little bit more. Gets very, very, very sketchy. Separates from his Wukong and we get punished for it. So here, I love the intention. I do like what he's doing here. I love how he's kind of putting his body in the area, complementing his jungle in the invade. I probably would have liked to see some slightly less aggressive posturing rather than running forward into Nefiri here. I would have liked to see him maybe kite back towards the Pantheon. And especially here, now he's completely split with his Wukong. Him and Wukong are on different pages. Nefiri's able to get on top of him, and now we don't have that peel from the Wukong. So slight disrespect, I think. I would say specifically, disrespecting Ryze's ability to maybe move to the play. Would have liked to see some tighter spacing there, but yeah, we get a little bit over eager and it looks like we end up giving a few little bounties there, which is a bit of a shame. Okay. So gets a bit sloppy here. Continuing on, we are going to lose the dragon on the back end, so it ends up being a pretty significant mistake. Riftfield is up on top side. So, tying it back to what we want to be thinking about right now is, we have no flash, top lane struggling. At this stage, really, tightening up our warding and leaning, being hyper aware of our jungler's location, and really trying to recalibrate around the next major neutral objective. Let this guy die. Great. No compensation. Very, very good. Get the hell out of there. Wait for our team to kind of regroup here. Now, I respect the Leandris as a second item. The enemy have a lot of HP. They got Roa on Rise. They got Roa on Gragas. They've also got some hate. They're going to have probably, I'm assuming, Black Cleaver on the Fury, and we've got HP on the Thresh and the Corki as well. So, I think Leandris in the double burn build is very relevant in this game. Excellent. Taking that blue buff. And this is where we probably want to see the lane assignment swap relatively soon. We could probably stay for one more here, and then we can start getting into the side lane and then swapping up that lane assignment there with the Draven. So it ends up sticking around here a little bit. Beautiful placement of the W, forcing Thresh to go that kind of long way around that W there, and ends up netting ourselves some kills. So really, really good. Clean ability usage. Okay, so we end up breaking the tier 1 here. Okay, so Gragas goes for a bit of a TP flank. We don't end up spotting it. Easier said than done. Pantheon is in the area to peel. Unfortunately, we die. So look, I don't mind this death. I mean, we burnt ults, we burnt TPs. Very, very difficult for you to track TPs when you're in the heat of the moment, sieging a tier 1. So nice TP from the Gragas, well played. And the reason I don't mind this death is we don't lose a ton of farm. There's no neutral objectives up anyway. So it's what I would call a very like low value, like high value death in that sense, or low value kill from the enemy. Okay, so the challenge we face moving into this mid game is that they've got some pretty nasty mid-jungle 2v2. I mean, this Rise and the Fury has some very, solid skirmishing. I think our advantage is our team fighting. I think we have the better team fighting with the Wukong, with the Draven, but they probably have better side lane pick. So we end up TPing mid to cover mid because the Draven was dead, and now we're looping back around. Notice that we went the conservative way. We don't know where the Neferi is, so we don't go through the jungle. We go around the long way. And if we look global vision, look at that. They were in there as well. So really good heads up, understanding that his team's on the other side of the map. He doesn't have that ability to move through the jungle. Great map state calibration in his low states, knowing when it's his time to kind of be quite aggressive and defensive. So sees a fight happen, ditches the wave. I love this. Knows that this is a pretty significant 3v3 or 4v4. Puts his body in the area here for this major fight. I respect it. And then worst case scenario, the play doesn't work out. We can always just maneuver back bot. Very good. Now, look, an argument could be made, well, why not just ping back and stay bot? You could do that, but just if you take a look at this, if you panned your camera and you saw that, and you saw Wukong moving over with R, and you see Pantheon creating all this space, and just like the body language of everyone involved, it does look like a very committal fight. So I don't blame you. And typically what you're really looking for in these scenarios when moving is how committed is the enemy? What's the likelihood of this being a very extended fight? And look, I think his hypothesis was completely reasonable, and it very easily could have just moved down into the river towards him, and he could have cleaned up a double kill. So I think putting his body in the area is completely fine. We go straight back into the side lane. We see Rise, we see Neferi dead, so we can keep shoving this one all the way out, and then we could probably go for a recall relatively soon for our Leandris. So we've got Atacon as the next major neutral objective. We've got to be very careful here. We're very overextended by ourselves. It looks like we're actually deep in the jungle and the enemy doesn't even know it. So we're actually trying to take this blue buff. We're going to be very careful here. Holy moly. Okay, so we don't have TP. I would love to see him regroup through mid together as a team and play that front to back team fight here. So very creative, sneaks that blue buff. We complete our second item. We're very strong. We got great team fighting. As long as Wukong has R and we play that front to back, we should theoretically be okay here. I'll be honest, I don't know if I fully agree with this positioning. I would have liked to see him run through mid. Look at that. So he realizes, I can't be here. I need to move in through mid. And you can see how he's confused. Do I stay bot or do I go through mid? And this is the challenge. We don't want to be coming in from the flank. We want to be moving in together as a team. And quite honestly, you could even just sack this bot wave here just to make sure that we have that good positioning. And that's what I would do. I would sack this bot wave, regroup up here together, create that front to back. This is very, very good because this is Viktor's identity. We want those front to back team fights. So here we go. Ready and rearing to go. The fight has started. E, drop that R, that W. We've got Wukong team fighting. We're pumping out a lot of AoE. We've got Rise going on the back line, instantly peeling. We're not over chasing here. Really good team fight positioning. Very poised, very patient, high value Qs. Great W. Very, very good W. And honestly, that's the major difference, I would say, from the fighting and execution perspective comparatively to the past VODs, is the decisiveness of the W usage. The W usage was really clean. So I really want to go over this whole sequence again, guys. So a lot of people said, well, how do I know where to deploy out of the base here? Do I go bot? Do I go mid? Well, we can see that Dragon is spawning and Adakan is spawning, and Viktor is not a champion that wants to come in from the flank, especially with this sort of build and this sort of comp, right? So what we need to be doing is we need to be going in through mid, getting control and moving in through here. So what ends up happening is Viktor initially thought, okay, I can maybe snag a wave or two bot, then loop in through mid. He thought he maybe had enough time, but then he realizes very quickly, shit, I don't have enough vision. They're not showing around mid. I'm scared. I don't want to get picked right before the neutral objective, because look at this. Graggles was trying to look for that creative pick on bot side, ends up realizing, you know what, Dragon's about to come up. I can't catch that wave and be there for that front-to-back team fight. So now he's able to move here in time, just ready to go for the fight with good quality positioning. Now we're behind our team. We land that E, we land that R and W, and we're able to kind of shred through, peel back. And I love how we don't overstep forwards into the team. We peel back here onto our Draven as well, which is, again, following those principles of front to backing, good quality, conservative, team fighting, great placement of the W as well, behind the Ryze in front of the Nefiri, which simultaneously forces Ryze to disengage and also prevents Nefiri from following up. And that's a classic example of, the way I kind of envision winning games with Viktor. You have a solid lane, good threat assessment, warding and leaning, good CSing, good trading, and then you rock up to one of these major neutral objective fights front to back and you shred them. This is exactly how you want to go about winning your Viktor games. Now we're able to turn that into a Dragon, we're able to turn that into an Adakan, and now we're definitively in that commanding position, and from now on we should really be able to win those team fights. So looks like we go for a TP mid here because Draven's overstayed bot, which it is what it is. Now it just does mean that we don't have TP moving into the mid game, which means we need to be very, very particular about how we move around the map here. So I would like to see us now just take it easy, wait for our Wukong to get in position. We've got to be a little bit careful here. Burn the flash of the Corki, kite away from the Ryze R. This is pretty good positioning, front to back. Wukong's creating space. Throw down those Ws, throw down those E's. Very good hook from the Thresh. We have to flash out. Look, not bad. Not a bad little fight for us. I mean, we probably got a little bit too overeager with fighting around the Pantheon, but we get the job done. So the reason I don't mind this is look at it from a positioning perspective, guys. We are not getting flanked. Everyone is coming from one particular angle, right? Ryze is coming in front of us. Thresh is coming in front of us. Everyone's kind of moving in front. So now all we got to do is make sure, look at this, even this positioning here, look at that. See, now we're funneling them in. We're funneling them in down this little corridor. So if they want to fight us, you're going to have to come in and go through our R. Look at that R getting onto the back line. We've got that beautiful, this AoE ease. Look, that was a really good hook, to be honest, from the Thresh. We peel back, high value lasers again, and then now him and Draven are able to kind of rinse repeat here and kind of, win the back end of the team fight. So get a bit disrespectful. Ryze does kill us on the back end there. So good quality team fighting there, good positioning. I would say my biggest thing that I really like about this Viktor player is that they are very intentional about their positioning, which is, there's a reason why they're such a high elo Viktor player. It makes sense. You wouldn't get to this elo bracket with poor quality positioning as a Viktor player. So we're just going to fast forward a little bit here. Let's go back. We redeploy. We've got Baron coming up in about 1:30. We don't have our TP. We're trying to keep this mid tower alive. And so what Ryze needs to try and do is try and drag Viktor into the side lane and prevent us from being there for those team fights, because Ryze wants to drag us around the map. So that's what you got, kind of two, contrasting identities. You got Ryze, who wants to shove and move and drag us around the map, and then you've got Viktor, who wants to predominantly, be here for those major, team fight front to backs. So here we go. We're keeping that mid shove in. It wouldn't surprise me if Mbessa has to go back bot to kind of defend that Ryze. I mean, it can't be us because we don't have that TP. So we're doing a bit of an ARAM. I mean, we can't go top anyway. So when Bess is covering bot, we're chilling, not over forcing. Looks like a bit of an opportunistic play here, maybe. Again, I don't mind this. No one's flanking us. That's completely fine. Very opportunistic. And Bess is on bot. We can now go cover top. And now we have our TP back up. We've got Baron spawning, and then we've also got Dragon coming up at a very similar time. So this one's going to be interesting. We see Nefiri on bot side. We see Ryze on bot side as well. Really what I'd be looking for here is collecting these waves and then regrouping mid to be here again for that front to back around the Dragon. So we get the kill, pretty straightforward. And it looks like we're actually sending it straight onto the Baron. Bit of a ballsy call here. I respect it. I mean, it does allow us to create a front to back. Our turn isn't the greatest, but I guess Rise is still bought, and we got that beautiful Thresh pick. So if we can zone with our W, that would be excellent. Yep, we didn't allow the Neferi in. Beautiful. And we're able to kind of get that Baron. It looks like the game's basically over from here. We play that front to back. Great W. Peel back with a QE. Use that Zhonya's to create a bit of space. Him and Draven are trying to pop. And it looks like the rest is basically history from here. So, look, what I really enjoyed about this game from Viktor, I would say there's a few things. I think early lane, there was a lot of intentionality with our warding, leaning, and positioning, which is a really good contrast to what we saw from the Emerald VOD. We saw much more intentionality with our positioning in the mid game, and also learning when we're strong side versus weak side. When our jungler was on the other side of the map, we were playing conservative. When our jungler was around us, we were posturing up a little bit more aggressively. Yeah, maybe an argument could be made they're a little bit greedy at certain times, but again, their positioning at the end of the day when they got there for those major neutral objectives was A+. Pretty clean W usage as well, very not holding on to it too long, great decisive R usage, and again, a lot of intentionality about being there for those major fights, not sitting too long on the side lane, and not letting Ryze dictate the mid-game macro. Really, really good stuff. So this one was interesting. We definitely saw some massive differences in fundamentals and qualities of ability usage in mid-game macro. If there's any champs you would really want to see, let me know. Hope you're enjoying the content series. Otherwise, I'll see you for another video soon. Cheers, guys.